Hi guys, and welcome to Taylor Toon's Creative Geek with myself, Scott Taylor. Before we get started with today's topic, if you like this content, please hit the subscribe button and share this content among your friends too, especially if they, like yourself, enjoy comic books and all that fantasy and sci-fi goodness. Believe me, it will help me bring you more content in the future. Okay, well, to start with, we're going to dive right in and talk about Laserleah's best friend, a robot named S.H.E.N.A. That's S.H.E.N.A.
It began, a day just like any other. Leah joined the line of workers. Under the watchful eye of the Orkons, these poor human specimens shuffled towards the high-security compound. Handed their tools respectively, the humans went about their work.
It was forced labour. Their only reward was 1 meal a day at best and 6 hours sleep.
Young Leah and her robotic handmaid remained at the back of the breadline. S.H.E.N.A knew young Leah, her ward, and also knew that she was not like all these other slaves. Leah was a rebel in her heart. She just lacked the strength and the power to back her convictions, though her will was strong.
S.H.E.N.A had been in service to young Leah since the day she was activated and went online. For years she made certain that Leah remained safe, making sure she never got into trouble with either the overseers or their fellow humans. S.H.E.N.A is an acronym that stands for Synthetic Heuristic Entity with Nurturing Autonomy. This robot did not know who Leah's real parents were. All she knew was that she was Leah's only family and guardian. That was enough.
This one day was going to turn out just that little bit different, however. This was the day the human prisoners were liberated. The great Orkon klaxon sounded. A blue-faced Orkon lookout shouted from the top of the watchtower, "Arm yourselves! The resistance is here!" There were 50 armed humans at least. They smashed through the perimeter fence like it was made of paper, shouting "Freedom!" at the top of their lungs. And who was at the head of this raid but the resistance leader himself, S.H.E.N.A. S.H.E.N.A, an excellent marksman, aimed his sights at the individual standing atop the lookout tower. One bullet was all that was required. The man toppled several feet to his death. This was all the strength young Leah needed to take matters into her own hands. She did, and gave the camp prefect a straight cuff to the side of the chin, which sent the startled ruffian spinning into the dirt. S.H.E.N.A escorted all the human slaves back to their HQ, an old retired mythology safe house. On the journey back, S.H.E.N.A began to chat with Leah. He wanted to know more about this young woman he had just rescued. She explained that her parents were killed when she was very young. S.H.E.N.A was the only mother she had known. S.H.E.N.A asked S.H.E.N.A where they were heading. S.H.E.N.A explained that it was some old safe house. When they finally arrived, Leah looked puzzled. There was no building anywhere in the area, no settlement, and definitely no safe house. That was when S.H.E.N.A pointed out the invisible barrier, blotting the entire estate and its grand building from view. In fact, the whole place was invisible. S.H.E.N.A shows them that it is merely an illusion, nothing more. Leah has never seen such marvels. She pokes her face through the barrier and witnesses a mansion on the other side. What magical wonders. S.H.E.N.A shows Leah around the old place. He describes the history of these grounds, telling her that it used to be the home of a secret order of men and women, named the mythology Institute.
This whole place used to be an institution, like the Illuminati. The people who once lived here operated in the shadows. They used to call this place the mythology Institute. The surrounding gardens you see, the barracks, the buildings, are all that's left of it.
It's beautiful here. Surprising to imagine this oasis, this piece of history has managed to stand through all the horror, all this devastation. Though I suspect that invisible barrier outside, filtering all this from those who would seek to destroy it, has something to do with it. Sort of crazy to imagine that level of technology still exists.
Sort of ironic, too. Ironic because our erstwhile captors have been using filters for centuries in order so that they can hide their true appearance. They merely revealed themselves to humanity 2 decades ago. They've been operating in the shadows for much longer than that. They used filters to hide their appearances from us. For ages, they masqueraded as top officials, people of noble bloodlines, affecting the way in which people lived. They might have been royalty and people of high society, but they were parasites through and through.
Well, I don't get it. If the Archons already had us in their web while they operated in the shadows, why didn't they attack us overtly? I mean, why go to the trouble of manipulating us, only to decimate us outright and force the rest of us to work for them?
I don't think they had a choice. I think too many people actually began to see these Archons for what they really were, and that alone was enough to tip their hand finally. People just realized the truth that we had all been sleepwalking for the past several thousand years. The Archons have always been there, secretly pulling the strings, making us dance, making our culture vibrate with disharmonious chords. We have been singing their sickened song, dancing to their mediocre tune all of this time. And why? Envy? Is it because they saw true potential in mankind and simply wanted to sully it? Ruin humanity? It was as if these Archons arrived on our world, and suddenly all the life, beauty, and joy got sucked down the crapper. There is evidence here in our repository to support these claims. Sad, really, to imagine all the promising lives and souls that ever was. All that potential wasted. And for what? Just so these bags of shit could take advantage. Grow fat and just feed off a new generation of artists and creatives. Just makes me sick giving it a moment's thought.
Now Leah had already met S.H.E.N.A, the rebel leader, and now it was time for her to meet someone else, the spiritual leader of the human resistance, Orkon.
Lee stood before the entrance to the great library. She was bid to enter. She pushed the doors wide and was greeted by the sorceress, Orkon. This Orkon, as she was called, had imposing features. She wore a helmet with a visor, covering her lips, and a pair of metal wings that sported these tips that looked like huge red daggers. Though her voice had that steady calm that remained tempered with wisdom.
Leah, I presume? Why, yes. But how did you know my name? I have known for some time. I might be a seer, but beyond that I knew you before you entered this library. In fact, we have met. We have? Where? How? I don't recall. Spoilers, my dear. Spoilers. I am a seer and a sorceress, it is true, but my chemistry is non-linear. Time and dimension mean absolutely nothing to me. We have met, and that day will not be long in coming, which is to say we shall yet meet for the first time ever. I can see you are confused. Suffice to say, my purpose here is the same as your own. And I have a purpose much the same as you, my dear young Leah. You are searching for it, yearning for it even now. A way to free ourselves and mankind from these oppressive, evil Orkons. Young Leah, you are merely at the beginning of your journey. The search for your true character. To expel all fear, all doubt, and become a symbol of hope for all mankind.
Laserleah Phoenix and the Gortanu moth brave the icy wastes to save their friends from Maligora's clutches.
Enter the feisty female warrior and prankster, S.H.E.N.A. That sassy gal with the pink floppy ears and the green and yellow leotard. Now, this rather eccentric, not to mention exotic individual was captured and detained before the rebels were. In fact, there's this amusing scene where the detainees are chained to the bulkhead of Maligora's slave transport. They're left alone to chat and get to know each other. Well, you know how it is. S.H.E.N.A asks S.H.E.N.A what she's been detained for, and she instantly replies by saying, "Oh, for wearing a swimsuit in public." Talk about your ridiculous plot holes. I mean, not being funny like, but this is supposed to be some crazy dystopian world left behind by some world-shattering cataclysm, you know? I mean, where did she find the time to sit on some calm beach somewhere wearing skimpy underwear? I mean, mind blown. In any case, they're all being transported to Orkon Central for interrogation and possible execution. Anyway, this slave transport is finally intercepted by Laserleah on Gortanu. She tears open the hull with the aid of a sword of Trindle K, peeling back the large chunk of metal bulkhead. She descends into the slave transport, landing square in the midst of the shackled prisoners. Laserleah instantly goes around freeing each of them in turn. As Maligora's troops open fire on Laserleah, S.H.E.N.A is now free to use her special skills. She summons her magic stars. Basically, these star-shaped beams of energy can pretty much do anything. They can create mighty diversions, and they can levitate. So yeah, these rebels fly free of the slave transport using stars as transportation. And they just float effortlessly down to the ground. I mean, what were you expecting? This is fantasy, yeah? There are supposed to be crazy plot holes. It's called creative license. Okay, fair point. If you want to argue about plot holes. I mean, just imagine if Gandalf the Wizard, out of Lord of the Rings, had summoned the giant eagles to take the Fellowship all the way to Mount Doom from the very start. Don't you think they could have saved themselves a ton of trouble? And Superman, yeah? Superman. He can bend metal with his bare hands, shoot lasers from his eyes, and fly around the Earth backwards, making time flow in reverse. And he can fly. How the hell does he do that without any propulsion? Well, what else but a sizable amount of baked beans and the power of his mighty anus? Star-shaped plot holes, my friends. Live with it. Right, problem solved, rebels freed, world saved. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our Laserleah season. Okay, well that's it for this week. Please like and subscribe. Also leave your thoughts in the comments section below and share this content if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you all next Monday. Bye.
For freedom, truth, and honor, I am Laserleah Phoenix.